So this is my attempt to distill May's chapter on civil society and interest groups into 5 minutes. That's all the time you get with Powtoons. Mays explains that since the fall of the Third Reich, policy making has slowly shifted from government to governance. That basically means that instead of all of us following the Führer who makes all the rules, politicians are now pawns like the rest of us. This leads to the game becoming very messy with several players playing along. Because of globalization, some of these may not even be part of the same set. Broadly speaking, there are 3 big interest groups influencing policy. Government-related groups, lumped together as the public sector. The market, this includes transnational organizations and the huge power they wield. And civil society, the group May's chapter is most interested in. The market and civil society are both interest groups that may pressure or support governments. I think it's pretty obvious what the market is all about. But who are civil society? Basically, civil society is a broad church consisting of pretty much all those that don't fit into the first 2 groups. Most are not for profit. All have a passion or a goal they focus on and wish to bring to the government's agenda. Some are in bed with government and consulted in policy decisions. Others emphasize their intention to remain at a safe distance. A third group may be shifting from the reception into the private quarters. In other words, they may change from pure activism and advocacy to a partnership model that holds hands with governments to effect change. Sweaty fingers may then lead to intimacy. Mays argues that involvement of civil society organizations such as NGOs can help governments because of their expert knowledge. Policy can gain legitimacy because NGOs are generally trusted, something governments apparently lack. I wonder why. Government can also fob off responsibility of implementation to NGOs to save money. Mays describes that civil society can become a buffer between market and the government, ensuring that neither become too powerful. Civil society interest groups can have greater effect than individual advocates. This is because their combined voice brought about by numbers, ability to pool resources, and knowledge to persuade governments. Should all these fail, they can kick up a fuss and embarrass policymakers by throwing some dirt. How can we use pressure groups in public health? Participation. Pressure groups can give individuals and groups the opportunity to get directly involved in policy making, not just by voting. Representation. Pressure groups can broaden the conversation, highlighting issues that the policymakers' tunnel vision would otherwise ignore. Education. Members can gain familiarity with the policy process and work towards effecting change from within the system. Motivation. Pressure groups can motivate governments or ministers to consider policy development of public health concern. Mobilization. Pressure groups can kick up a fuss and throw toys out of the cot when governments don't listen. Monitoring. By using the above, civil society can keep governments and the market honest. So, how are we doing? In short, not great. The market and labour interest groups are more powerful than public health sector. This is basically because in politics, well-being is measured by GDP. On a positive note, Mays argues that civil society are increasingly taken more notice of. This is achieved by pushing concerns onto the government agenda. To ensure forward momentum, we as public health advocates need to learn to play the Game of Thrones.
Created using Powtoon.